Welcome back. You're watching Storyboard. Ravi Deshpande, the chairman and chief creative officer of Contract Advertising, will soon be ending his long career at the WPP-owned agency. Now, this is a career which has spanned nearly 22 years. Ravi, who took the decision to move on to pursue personal interests, was key in Contract's success, helping the agency build brands which include Philips, Shoppers Stop, NIIT and Cadbury's, to name just a few. Storyboard editor Anant Rangaswami talks to Ravi about his illustrious career. Watch on, there is some great learning there.
I want to start off with something I thought about, which was, your career in Contract has spanned this whole sort of sea of changes. So tell us your high points in this career. So what is the first campaign that you remember?
I think the many campaigns happen as you begin your career, and especially even in Contract. The whole task was to get the agency going. It just had building, in various cities. Grand Canyon Accord was just bought over, and we just had real estates and not really any significant pieces of business. And some offices did have some businesses, but we pretty much had businesses who were just starting their career as well. For instance, NIIT in Delhi, right. Stuff like that. So when we got going, we really had the task of running for businesses and doing all kinds of pitches, putting some sort of ideology together for Contract, and build an agency that we all would want to work for forever. And that was just a mission. That was a dream, and we all rolled up sleeves and we all started working towards that sort of goal. So initially we did sort of work that perhaps may be forgettable, because you just did pretty much that please Contract, and then that was annoying us, particularly annoying me, because I never wanted to join this business where you just pretty much create what somebody else wants, as against you create something that is actually going to work for somebody else, right. And make it memorable. So I started to prevail, and in 88, I started to express myself in a significant way. I started to assert myself. I used to frequently travel to Calcutta and Mumbai office. I was a floating resource of Contract, and I did some work on Lipton Treetop. I don't know if you recollect those brands. Course, yes. Some work on TVS, Suzuki in those days, and we just sort of got going. By 89, we became Agency of the Year in Bangalore, thanks to lots of pieces of good work, and that sort of created a feeling amongst contractites that this agency can do things. And it's a tiny agency for sure, but it seemed like a force, creative force, and we started to think big, dream big, and then we got going, and a lot of new businesses started to come in.
What was the tipping point at that time? What caused you to be thought of as a creative powerhouse?
The first significant piece of success came our way was in the form of a big Philips campaign. They were having problems. Their equity in India was eroding. They were getting seen as an Indian company, less on technology, losing its market shares. And it was struggling, and especially with the Japanese competition asserting itself. At which point in time, the team Contract and myself got into the act, and we arrived at this position for the brand called Real Technology for Real People. Right. The idea here was that when we looked into the Philips history, Philips capabilities, Philips innovation, we found this statement that Philips as a company really affects people's lives positively by constantly innovating solutions. So I think that probably was the most awesome campaign that Contract created in the 90s and the early 90s. Which I think helped Philips ultimately regain the iconic position that the company enjoyed for a long amount of time in India. So that was a great success. At this time,
you also had NIIT going from strength to strength. You also had Shoppers Stop emerging.
Shoppers Stop, another romantic story. It's not just a great creative story, but it's a romantic story too. I mean, I remember going and seeing a building which was essentially a movie theater that was to be broken down and made into a shopping mall. An idea that sounded crazy in the beginning, but clearly Rahejas and the leader, the CEO, Nagesh, who I think had started to see the dream of creating a retail revolution in the country, and they obviously had right ideas of how to go about it. And we decided to share their dream and started to work with them at that point in time. So the campaign for Shopper Stop, where the line was "Feel the experience while you shop," was created, and that was created basis that it's the first time ever you will enjoy the shopping experience that you have actually never experienced before. The good thing about this brand is the client hung in there with the belief of black and white, hung in there with the belief of staying with the agency, and we could create all that magic. And only recently, so about I think 3-4 years ago, when we felt that the times have changed and Shopper Stop needed a different conversation, it needed to say something more philosophical, something that is larger than life than merely saying that I've got 50 stores, I've got 10,000 square foot area, or I've got this many brand. So start something new as a philosophy now is being carried out, and that's what we try to do in every possible campaign that's coming up now.
Shopper Stop is just one of many brands that Contract has handled. Homegrown brands, which for reasons you'll have to tell me, why did they never go to some other agency?
They saw the agency's complete dedication and commitment and attachment to the brand. Over and above that, what they saw that agency has always managed to surprise them with something new, something different, and something that is a sheer display of energy and passion.
Ravi, one big brand that we haven't spoken about, where you disrupted a product itself, I think it went a little beyond advertising, was Cadbury and their celebrations.
Right.
So talk us through how that was born.
Initially, what we used to do is take all the Cadbury products, put it into a box called Celebrations, assorted chocolates, and then sort of send it out in the market during festival time. But it was essentially 5-star and Dairy Milk and so on put inside a box. And from there the idea emerged, and it very clearly showed a potential of growing that brand in the marketplace. So they subsequently created special chocolates for this particular offering, and it would typically get sold during the Diwali or Rakhi period, and the brand started to steadily grow. It showed even bigger promise, and we're all, with that sort of small success initially and then slightly bigger success later, we all got very excited, and we started to invest more in it. And ultimately today now it's a significant brand. It's a great success story in the last 10 years, from something that was so sketchy to something that is, I wouldn't say iconic yet, but it's significantly big, and I'm sure it consumes people's mind in terms of picking Cadbury Celebrations as a gift during festive times.
We've been talking now, we can rattle off success story after success story after success story, all in the same agency. And now we've reached a stage where you want to move on. And that's unusual. A man at the top of his game and hardly any dips in the career, embraced technology changes, medium changes, consumer changes, and now you've chosen, for reasons best known to you, to move on from Contract. So what specifically are we likely to see? Start your own agency, join a new network?
What is, this is a question being asked very often recently. And it's a really hard one to answer, simply because, I was leading the agency, and I found myself just doing that and nothing else. And I was so consumed. And there's not a day when I'm not worrying about the brands that I work on. There's not a day I'm not worrying about the quality of work. And there is not a day I'm not worrying about how could I produce more, and how could I produce something that's beautiful. So that's such a consuming task that what do I do tomorrow is not a question you can quickly answer when you're so busy with work. But I think one must move on, and all good things come to an end. And I thought that I'll sort of try and write another chapter. So I'm now sitting with a blank paper for the next few months, and trying to figure out my future in terms of, hey, how could I go in a direction where I'm going to be useful to people who come and put faith in me, and how am I going to do things that are different than what I did in the last 2 decades.
Thank you so much, Ravi, for your time. And I'm going to be watching that sheet of paper as you fill it up.
Very
Thank you
soon,
so much.
Very soon it will be filled up.
Meanwhile, Contract Advertising has roped in Law and Kenneth's Kapil Mishra as Executive Creative Director. Well, it's time for another break on Storyboard. Up next, a savvy app that effortlessly communicates the idea of soundproofing.